Hey everybody, it's Karen Anderson here with Aortic for our week in review. Our week in review is basically an opportunity for us to review everything that we've posted on our social media from the prior week, but give you, the viewers, an opportunity to interact with me. Let me know your thoughts, give me your stories, share some insight. And that's kind of what we do here. So before we get started, please click the like button. Please click the subscribe and that little bell so you're notified every time we go live. We don't just go live for this. We go live when people are brave enough to share their survivor stories, and then they get to take questions from you. And we also go live when we interview practitioners, therapists, attorneys, all different types of people. And that also gives you a chance to ask some questions and go live with us. So we're going to get started. We're going to get started on this week in review. And we'll see if anybody joins us. But if you guys join us, leave us a comment. Let us know you're out there so we can have an opportunity to say hi, because if you do, you have a chance to win Aortic Dissection, the Patient Guide. We're going to send you a hard copy. Okay. All right, we're getting started. Let's start off with last Monday. So last Monday was our movement for movement. So we are back at this again, coming off of Aortic Disease Awareness Month of September. And let's talk about some movement. We basically come up with articles and different things to talk about to incentivize you and motivate you to get moving, because it's okay to move. It's okay, whatever your doctor says you can do, because we don't know where you are in your, recovery and management of aortic disease. I don't know if you are fresh out of the hospital or you're 10 years down the road. I just say move. Whatever your doctor says you are cleared to do, please do it. I'm not your doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm just here to motivate you. Rah, rah, be like your cheerleader and tell you that it's okay. It's better than okay. It's healthy and it's important for you to move your body. We know sometimes doing nothing is still doing something, and it really truly is. But sometimes you just need a little bit of support to help you get moving. So let's give you a little bit of that support right now. Walking. Walking is literally one of the most simplest ways and most effective ways that you can improve your health and your well-being. It can actually help you burn calories. We all could use a little bit of that, right? It can help you strengthen your muscles. It can lower your blood pressure. It can help you reduce stress and ultimately boost your mood. I don't know about you, but right now in the Mid-Atlantic region, walking is beautiful. We are going to be in 80-degree weather, but even if it's 60, the trees are changing colors. And to me, this is another one of my favorite times of year. I just love when the breeze comes in and the leaves start falling. And it's a great time just to get out and walk. If you're going to wear headsets, though, please keep one out for safety. Just food for thought. But according to Jamie Davis Smith with Yahoo Life, here's what some of the studies are actually saying about walking. So don't take my word for it. Listen to what some of the studies say. This can actually help you reduce your risk of dementia. Go figure. If we can all remember that we should walk, it would help you reduce your risk of dementia. A study published in JAMA Neurology found that taking 9,800 steps, so not quite the 10,000 everybody talks about, but if you take 9,800 steps, that may actually be considered optimal to lower the risk of developing dementia. Go figure. I mean, we now know that you don't have to do 10,000 in order to truly benefit from walking. I think they lowered the number, but they have done a study, obviously, that says 9,800, why it's not 9,799, 9,800 steps could actually help you lower the risk of developing dementia. However, the study found that taking as few steps as 3,800 a day could actually lower your risk of developing dementia by 25%. So that's still a huge percentage in my book. So if you could even just pop in 3,800 steps, which I think that's not too far off from a mile. I forgot how many steps, average stride steps equals a mile, but it will potentially lower that risk by 25%. So that's pretty big. Walking can actually help you live longer. Did you know this? Because I did not know this. A study also published in JAMA Internal Medicine found that older women that were taking steps that were about 4,400 steps a day, they had a 41% chance lower as far as the risk of dying. Now, this is all different things considered, but this helps increase their longevity. You just have to think of it like this. And another study, another one again published in JAMA Network Open, found that taking 7,000 steps a day was linked to a 50 to 70% lower risk of mortality overall. And that's a huge percentage. Yet another study, there's so many studies, this one was published in Nature, found that walking briskly, and again, briskly would be defined by each person differently, but walking briskly for as little as 10 minutes a day could lower your biological age by 16 years and help you live 20 years longer. I am so in. If I could lower my technical age by 16 years, well, that makes me carry the 4 and the 3. It makes me a lot younger than I am right now. Look, walking briskly for 10 minutes is nothing. During COVID, we used to do this with all of you by walking around our houses internally. I would go live on Facebook and just walk around the first floor of my house, keeping track of my heart rate on my smartwatch. And I put in a couple miles just talking to everybody. So it's something that you can easily do. Be mindful again of the weather and the temperatures in your terrain and talk with your doctor before you do it. But oh my gosh, to like lower my age by like 16 and help me live 20 years longer than whatever I'm supposed to anyway, sounds good to me. It can actually also help reduce your risk for heart disease and cancer. Now, we know a lot of this stuff is DNA related, but your genes need to get turned on. They need to become activated. So if we can do things to, I don't know, maybe not activate them so soon, and I don't even know if that's right. I'm just making this up. But if walking can help, like why not just walk, right? A study published in JAMA Internal Medicine showed that taking up to 10,000 steps a day could actually lower your risk of cardiovascular disease and cancer. And that there was also no clear benefit to taking more than 10,000 steps. That was the study I think I was referring to. You don't really need to go haywire crazy and take more than 10,000. And look, 10,000, it sounds like a lot because it is a lot. It's a lot. It really is. I think that when you're in Disney or Universal Studios, walking 18 to 20,000, you don't even realize it until the end of the day and your feet are in pain and agony. But you could easily walk. I mean, I was walking around New York City last weekend and I mean, so quickly logged in 8,000. Next thing you know, it was 12,000 steps because you're just kind of going about your day. So it's kind of really easy to do it. Not so easy when you plan it and you think about it, because then I feel like it thinks like work. It feels like work for a lot of us. For a lot of you, you love it and eat it up. And God, I wish I had that in me. But for me, if I had to say to myself today, I think I'm going to walk 10,000 steps. Ugh, can't do it. I want to do it, but I'll go to the mall. I'll go to the mall and walk around for sure. And I bet you I pull in a ton of steps. It might take me longer because I'm going to window shop too, but I'll definitely do that. See, if I make it fun, then I can get all of this activity in. I just have to make it fun for myself. Walking can help with blood pressure. It could help with blood pressure. And according to a study published in Peers, walking 300 minutes a week, just a week, 300 in a week, could actually reduce your blood pressure. There's a million different reasons why you should be walking. Walking actually can also help you sleep better. So, a study published in the Sleep Health Journal showed that taking an additional 2,000 steps a day can actually improve the duration and quality of your sleep. There's a million different benefits to walking, and it can improve your mental health. So, walking can help reduce anxiety and depression, it relieves stress. It lessens your negative emotions. According to this study in International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, there's a lot of positives in your mental health just by walking. And it can also help to strengthen your bones, which is very important, especially to menopausal and menopausal and postmenopausal women. Why? Because we lose calcium in our bones. And so if you want an easy way to strengthen your bones, just take a walk. Taking a brisk walk for as little as 30 minutes a day, like 3 days a week, I think it says, can help improve bone density and prevent osteoporosis. That's according to a study that was published in PLOS One. I'm not too sure what that organization is, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Anyway, walking can also help lower your risk for type 2 diabetes. And we know that type 2, I thought, was the kind of diabetes that can become acquired, whereas type 1 is usually one that you're born with. I could be wrong. But a study published by the American Diabetes Association found that the risk of developing type 2 diabetes went down with every additional 2,000 steps you put in. Now, these are all risks and probably really small percentages, but they still exist and they're still important. And walking, look, it's good for your brain. It can improve your memory, your creativity, your cognitive function. Walking's not only good for you, but think about this. It can also be really fun and enjoyable. I mean, if you have a pet, well, they're going to enjoy that. If you have friends, walk with them, family members. It's a great time to have a really supercharged, important conversation because you're walking and you're in public and nobody can have an argument. That's one way to look at it, right? It's a great time to catch up with people. And now we can walk and we can be on Zoom on our phones. Just again, leave one earbud out so you can be aware of your surroundings. It's a great place to listen to your music in one earbud. Don't make the whole world listen to your conversations or your music on speakerphone. But here's a joke for you. Why did the chicken cross the road? If you walk, you'll find out and you'll tell us next week. Speaking of telling us something next week, I was supposed to do something and tell you guys what the results were. Do you remember what that was, Josh, from last week?
I cannot remember. I can
I can't
tell
remember.
you that the question you had was how many steps is in a mile is about 2250.
Ah,
So
see,
depending on the step length, you can go between
hmm
2.1 and 2.5 feet per stride, right? And
okay,
so when you're looking at 10,000 steps, you're looking at 4.5 miles of walking.
yeah. And for a lot of people, just a walk, you can get that done in like an hour. It's very easy,
Sure.
very easy. But even if you just start slowly, take a look at your watch, take a look at your phone because you can download all of these stepping Fitbit type of apps and just walk around your house. First floor, you want to be challenging and add in steps and then do the whole, your top floor or do a basement or do around the outside of your house if you're only on one floor. Do it. I used to like to do it and then when I would get to one location, I would just turn and go the other direction. And my dog would join in. She thought I was nuts. But again, I was doing at least a mile if not more in less than 15 minutes. It was fun. It was easy. And I was inside. Too many pros to walking that I see in this article that makes me now, maybe what we need to do is go on live. Maybe we should be doing this from my phone and I walk. I talk to people. Walk and talk. Walk and talk with Karen. Kind of like it
Yeah,
as a
that
little
sounds like a
rain.
morning show.
Not too early though, because I like to sleep in. All right, that is our movement for Movement Monday.
All right, let's say hi to Molly. Hi, Molly.
Hi, Molly. Molly's supposed to do walk and talk with Molly, and I'm not going to let that idea go because to watch Molly walk on a beach and to hear the ocean and the birds would make me want to walk. It's like a virtual reality that I would be living in through her. It's got to happen. It's a great idea. It's actually an idea that I think somebody can make money off of. Just saying, you know, walk and talk with Molly. All right, topic Tuesday. This is from Duke, fourth year medical student. Soon going to be entering as a resident in medical school. I'm waiting to figure out where he's going to end up for that. But this week's topic Tuesday is from him. And he is hoping that everybody had a wonderful start to their week. For today, though, that Tuesday, he really thought it would be very helpful to kind of go over some common cough and allergy medications. If you remember last Monday, we talked about the difference between the cold, the flu, and COVID. So they're all a little different. And most recently, I was hearing from a few physicians that more people are actually projected to suffer from the flu this year than from COVID as far as having worse symptoms. That they're finding the worst symptoms will be because of the flu and less from COVID. Because I was asking if I'm going to get vaccinated, which would you do? Because I still have to have shingles. And she's like, for sure, do flu first. There's a lot of people right now, and we're not even in the season yet. A lot of people are starting to get sick from that. And then do my shingles last, which is fine. But this is only for reference, this information that I'm going to butcher when I try to attempt to name all of these medications. No way, shape is this a medical recommendation. It's an exhaustive list, but really only includes some of the more common medications that you'll see out on the market. But definitely talk to your doctor. If you have the cold, if you have flu, if you're suffering from allergies, whatever the case is, talk to a doctor before you take anything over the counter. Really make sure you've cleared that because there's a lot of ingredients in these medications, a lot that they're actually pulling. They just got rid of Dayquil. And I think they're going to make a new formulary for that because there's a lot of medications that have ingredients that increase your heart rate and could increase your blood pressure. So let's get into it, and don't laugh at me because I'm not a pharmacist and I was trying to study the pronunciation and I don't remember any of them. So here we go. All right. Common cough medications to know about. Antitussives. I clicked pronunciate on that on my phone. Antitussives. It's important to note that for coughs that are not productive, meaning you're not bringing anything up, antitussive medications can be used to decrease just the coughing part. And they should generally not be used when you have a productive cough, as coughing promotes the mucus to be coughed up. Okay. So a tussive, just like you hear tuss, like tussin, Robitussin, that's an antitussive. So dextromethorphan, or we're going to go with Robitussin. Everybody's heard of Robitussin. That actually suppresses your cough reflex. And that's happens centrally at the level of the central nervous system. Side effects of taking Robitussin could be constipation, can cause nausea and dizziness. Codeine, that's given a lot of times in cough medicines, and that suppresses the cough reflex as well. So if you're having a ton of coughing fits, this might be a medication. Codeine, you're not going to find over the counter, though. That's going to be a prescription, in which case, if your doctor is giving that to you, then I feel confident it's totally fine for you to take it, right? But those side effects could be nausea, could be vomiting, constipation, dizziness. It has a sedative effect to it, palpitations, and I don't know what pruritus is. So somebody could look that up because that's one of the side effects. I like side effects in regular layman's jargon. When there's side effects that are in like medical terminology, I don't know what that means. But Joshua, I'm sure you're on that. All right, Tessalon or pearls. I always thought it was P-A-R-L-S. No, it's P-E-R-L-E-S. Tessalon pearls. These are things that you can get in. I'm sorry if you guys hear my dog barking. She's losing her mind. These are things that you can get in a prescription, but you can also, I don't know if you can get that over the counter. I actually don't remember, but that suppresses peripheral triggers of the cough reflex. And the side effects, again, for those could be nausea, dizziness, headache, and an altered mental state. So again, those are some of your medications that help suppress a cough. Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Pruritus is itchy skin. It's chronic itchy skin.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do not need that. And many in the community know I'm suffering itchy skin right now, which we'll get into before we finish this today. Okay, so that is something that codeine can do, and that is correct because I am slightly allergic to codeine. So let's talk about allergic. Is it an allergy to have itchy skin, or is it a side effect? These are considered different things too from your physician. So you may want to ask one day, what is considered a true allergy? Because when it's an allergy, they don't want to give it to you again. And when is it just a side effect? So a little headache would be more of a side effect, and itchiness would show that you have an allergy to something because your itchiness could become worse over time. A headache can go away. Sometimes some of these allergic reactions are different than just having a side effect. A stomach ache is a side effect, but profuse vomiting might be considered that you are now allergic to that medication. So that's something to just think about, talk to your physician. Okay. Expectorant, just like it sounds, this is going to be something that's going to help you get up something, expel something, okay, lock something up. And Mucinex is a very common medication. It's actually really good. And you can get now Mucinex for high blood pressure. And you should talk to your physician which type of Mucinex would work. Because again, Mucinex DM, Mucinex D, plain Mucinex, just talk to your physician again before you buy any of these over-the-counter medications. But Mucinex works by increasing bronchial fluid to reduce the thickness that's actually the mucus. And the side effects of taking Mucinex, the side effects of taking Mucinex could be nausea or a headache. That's the side effects. I've never had any of those side effects taking Mucinex. Potassium iodide. This is a new one for me. I've never heard of Pima syrup or SSKI or Losat. I do not know any of those, and they may be prescriptions, but they can increase bronchial fluid to reduce the thickness of mucus. Those side effects could be nausea, vomiting, salivary gland swelling, and tenderness. So that's something to think about. I don't know where you find those drugs. Mucolytics. did really good on that. Don't know what that word is. Mucomist. We're just going to go with that. It helps to liquefy mucus. It's not often used unless you have COPD or cystic fibrosis. So that's not a drug that would be commonly used. Most of the ones you're going to hear about would be your expectorants. These are typical expectorants that you find over the counter. Talk to your doctor. All right, that is kind of your cold medications. Let's talk about some of the allergies. Very common medications. I'm sure you've heard of at least a few of these. Zyrtec, very common. Claritin and Allegra, very common allergy medications. These are all minimally sedating oral antihistamines, and they are able to reduce itching, sneezing, rhinorrhea. You want to look that one up, Joshua? I don't know what rhinorrhea. I don't know what that means. But they're much less effective for nasal congestion compared with a glucocorticoid spray. I'm sure we're going to get into sprays in a minute, but they can be given regularly or as needed, before 2 to 5 hours before a known allergen. Like if you're going to see a cat, you can take them a few hours before you're going to be in front of a cat if you're allergic. If you're going to garden and you're allergic to some of the dander that's out there from animals or just pollen, you can take these ahead of time and they'll help minimize any of the side effects of your allergy. Those would be a form of antihistamine. Okay. Antihistamine nasal spray would be Astepro, Astelin, never heard of these. Pataday, I've never heard of that, or Pantanol. But they are antihistamine nasal sprays. Now, people have asked, well, what about just taking Afrin? Or I think Mucinex might have a nasal spray now. I'm not too sure. So the problem with taking some of these nasal sprays is that if you take them too often, they're going to start to swell and cause inflammation. So many people actually get addicted to nasal spray thinking that it works, when in reality, it's really not working as well as it did the first couple times you were using it. So I can't say this enough. Again, with any of these types of medications, talk to your physician. I have always heard that just saline spray is best. It will help. I don't know how much of an inflammatory effect it really has, but it's totally safe and non-addicting just to use saline spray if you're having a lot of drying in your nose. Okay. Helicon, Flonase, Sinalar, Kenalog. I've heard of Flonase. These are glucocorticoid nasal sprays. For predictable exposures, consider starting these nasal sprays 2 days in advance until 2 days after an exposure. Flonase can be given also if you are just really, really stuffed and you need to talk to your physician. I can't even remember all the reasonings behind why I was prescribed Flonase a couple times, and I think it's over the counter. I'm pretty sure it is now. Cromolyn nasal spray. This is administered regularly or as needed, ideally 30 minutes before an exposure. It's helpful for brief exposures, like if you're going to be exposed for a few minutes to a couple of hours. For prolonged exposures to things that cause you allergies, the administration of a cromolyn nasal spray would happen 4 to 7 days in advance. I've never heard of this. I'm wondering if any of you have. I have no idea. But it is important to take these therapies regularly. They're going to be much more effective when they are taken regularly. However, you need to use when needed, might be sufficient for very mild symptoms. Sorry. The adverse effects of oral antihistamines are rare, but it could be somewhat sedating, could cause a little bit of weight gain if you're using it consistently, and it could also cause dry eyes because a lot of these medications are meant to dry you up. That's going to include your eyes. So you have to kind of be prepared for that as well. And that's why we have shared with you all of these common cold and allergy medications. Again, a lot of these medications could cause high blood pressure, could cause rapid heart rate. You just need to talk to your physician and ask them what they think is best based upon your symptoms. Sometimes it's best just to ride it through and let it work its way out. But again, in that case and scenario, if you're so uncomfortable, your heart rate and blood pressure might be high anyway because you're battling a cold or a virus and you're uncomfortable. So let your physician be the one to make the decision at what point do you need some type of prescription intervention or over-the-counter medication, and let them tell you what you should use. That was our topic Tuesday.
Right on. Let's say hi to Diane. She says she's coming in from Birmingham.
Hey, Diane.
Um, rhinorrhea, runny
Yeah.
nose, right?
Okay, that's all
Right.
that
So
means.
rhinoplasty,
Yeah, I get that.
diarrhea,
Runny.
rhinorrhea.
That's good.
Bo is here.
Hey, Bo. What's up in Bo's world? Way to go, Bo. It's like so much rhymes with the word Bo that you can't help it but make a saying out of it, right? It's nice to have all of you join us as we move on to our Therapeutic Thursday. But if you guys have anything to add about the medications and about the stuff we're talking about, please do so in the chat. All
I will
right.
say that Allegra is my favorite.
I know you were telling me that
Yeah.
before. You know, Benadryl used to work. It's not working for me right now, but again, we'll get into that in a little bit. Well, you know what? Let's just get into it now because I'm itchy. A lot of you may have seen in the Aortic Hope private forum me posting this grotesque picture of what looks like ton of measles across my back. It's actually all over. It's actually from my collarbones down into the upper part of my thighs, all the way around my body. So I am allergic to the contrast dye in CT scans, and I noticed this allergy way before I had a dissection. We're talking a million years ago. And while I was in the machine, I felt like I had a million bees stinging me up my arm, and I started having problems breathing. Well, they gave me whatever medication they give you to make all that stop. And they said, you are forever here considered allergic to CT dye. You need to be sure to tell a doctor so you can be pre-medicated in the future. Okay, now that's iodine based, but I can eat shellfish without issue. So doesn't mean that you're allergic to shellfish too. It just means I'm allergic to the dye. So then the aortic dissection happens, and they still had to pre-medicate me before they diagnosed me with the dissection. So I was given IV salumedrol, which is Benadryl, I'm sorry, which is prednisone in an IV, and I was given IV Benadryl. Now, what that does to your body is it makes you feel like you are running a marathon with your eyes shut because you are half asleep, but you are wide awake. Prednisone and Benadryl is a freaky, freaky combination because my heart was racing, kind of having palpitations, some arrhythmia, and then the Benadryl just makes you like you can't even react. You can barely speak. You're so out of it, and it is not necessarily pleasant until you work through that sensation. That's by IV. And usually about 45 minutes to no more than an hour later, they can then give you a CT scan. That's just the reality of it. And either way you look at it, you're going to get that CT quicker than you probably would if they tried to fit you in for an MRI. Not to mention an MRI of your entire aorta is going to take about 40 minutes anyway. But on a CT, takes 5. So it's this weighing the cost versus the benefit. Pre-medicated me. I got the 5-minute CT scan. They knew right away what was happening. Fast forward to 2017, I had a scan at a different facility. Lo and behold, they used a different contrast agent. And even though I was pre-medicated, I had a breakthrough reaction. This is definitely an allergic reaction. And I looked like I had second-degree burns. Same experience, itchy, painful, was horrible. Now, I just had to be in the ER last week for chest pain. I'm fine. Everything's fine. No change in my aorta. It was probably stress or GI related. But they decided that a CT scan made sense since I have 2 aneurysms and the pain was radiating. It had been lasting 4 or 5 hours. It made sense. It was the quickest way to determine. So we all decided collectively, all right, let's pre-medicate me. We're just going to go for it and cross my fingers I don't have a reaction. I didn't have a reaction in the machine, and I didn't until about 24 hours later. I started feeling a teeny bit itchy, but by the next day, I am, as I sit here, covered in a rash. I am in taking Benadryl and it does not do anything. I just started prednisone today. This is my 4th Medrol dose pack this year, and I do not think that steroids are a good thing to take. I'm hoping and praying that it knocks it out of my system within the next like day or two because I am losing my mind. I'm gonna go crazy. I take Claritin and Singulair every day. Nothing's helping. Nothing's helping. And as I was telling Joshua early, if I had chickenpox, I would be covered in scars because I am like, I cannot stop scratching. And then when I scratch, it hurts. So, it's kind of a deterrent, but it's miserable. But now the decision is, what do I do moving forward? Well, what do I do if I have the same situation? Well, I'm not going to blow off the chest pain. That's stupid because, it could be something one day. So I'm going to go to the ER and I'm going to tell him I'm really allergic and I need some other diagnostic test. And from what I was told, the next best test actually would be a TEE, transesophageal echocardiogram. So, really quickly, somebody can give you some propofol, knock you out real fast, and stick that camera down your throat right close to your heart. So it goes right down your trachea. Nope, goes right down your esophagus. Yep, yes, 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 esophagus, and gets really close to the heart and can take pictures like an echo, but much more detailed pictures of the most critical area, which is the area that comes out of the heart. So probably when you add up the amount of time it takes to be pre-medicated and waiting for that CT scan, they could probably already have me in and had the TEE done and determine if I was in imminent danger. So that's probably going to be what I have to have next time because I won't die from a rash, but this is 2 breakthrough reactions, which means I'm probably at higher risk for something worse, and I don't want to get to an anaphylactic reaction because I think having an EpiPen and making my heart race that fast would be bad. So, yeah, blue propofol, TEE, if that's what I have to do. There's always a thing they can do, but this is misery. So, if you think you're allergic, please make sure you tell somebody that you must be pre-medicated. Make sure your spouse or family member or friend knows, because if you can't talk and advocate for yourself, you need to have someone express this because this is not pleasant. And each reaction is different for those of us that are allergic, and some could be worse than others. So just food for thought. I have now stepped off my soapbox. How's that?
That's a good.
All
That's
right.
a good one. So Bo
Yep.
says here he's got a checkup with his cancer surgeon here on Wednesday, and I asked him if he was excited about that, and he goes, "Just a checkup. You see one doctor, you've seen them all."
Yeah.
And
Do
I
you get
go, and
checkup anxiety? Like, I
that's why I
wonder.
was asking, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, have you seen them all, right? And I go, oh, I mean, we hate to play favorites, but some are better than others. And then
Right.
Bo comes back with, always remember the doctor may be the doctor, but you are the doctor's boss. I fired many doctors,
Ooh.
at least 3 that I can count.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
go, self advocacy is kink. You're not wrong here. And then I said, king. That's supposed to say king. Keep your safe words to yourselves.
Yeah, that's true. I've definitely fired at least three or four doctors, four doctors, different categories. It's one, but you get to a second issue, there's no three. There's no three strikes out when it comes to my health and my wellness. There's one, and if there's a second issue, you're out. It's that simple. One doctor was out on number one. First issue, I was like, this is too key critical. I went to go see a cardiologist right after my dissection, and it was a family cardiologist. So he had saved my grandmother's life. He had worked on my father, and now it was my turn. And he's known me for years. I was a fanatic. After my father had a heart attack when I was 22, I started seeing the cardiologist to make sure I was fine. And then when I had high blood pressure issues, I've still seen the cardiologist. Well, after the dissection, my first checkup, he didn't have my file. He didn't have any information about my case. It doesn't seem to be that difficult. I had a type A residual B dissection, had no education, had pretty much nothing to tell me, and told me to stick with the labetalol I was taking. And even though my husband spoke up and said she is a zombie, she can't remember where she lives when she's in the car, this is a miserable drug, everything was supposed to stay the same. And then I was recommended to go to my cardiologist now. And I think, and it's fair, I think it's fair for a physician to semi-admit that they don't know that they want to handle you. This physician was nearing retirement, getting older, and I think I was just too much of a challenge and maybe in their eyes a liability. I don't know. So the decision, I think that case was mutual to just say, time for me to go to somebody who really, really understands and wants to be, invested in my care. But then there's been other physicians that, we're talking dirty situations that I had to let them go. Nasty, bad. There's nothing like a colorectal surgeon. Okay, I'm just going to share this now that Bo brought this up. Who wants to put you on medication and you're in their office and you're trying to explain to them, do you remember that I'm allergic? Like truly allergic to this medication. And they say, shh, 1 second, my horse is about to race. And they turn and look at their computer screen to watch their horse that's in a horse race. And I said, thank you so much for your time. And I left and I never went back. Horse race.
That is jaw-dropping.
Yeah. But I think a lot of women go through some pretty bad situations with physicians. I had another doctor, this one's great, an ENT. I was having my nose cauterized because I had a lot of nosebleeds. And I'm sitting up in a chair, but somehow he could not deal with my nose without resting his arms on my chest. And to the point that I was caving inside, like, this is so ridiculous. There's no need for there's no need for this. I'm sitting, if I was laying down, and someone says, excuse me, once nope, sitting up and just it was so obvious and disgusting. I never went back to that doctor again either. Yeah.
That's
I know
worse
many.
than that
It's worse.
first
Yeah.
one.
Oh yeah. So many horror stories I know from physicians, and that's not all of them. That's just the few. It's the few that just use this position of power to be dismissive, to be argumentative, to be inappropriate. That's all inappropriate, but to be sexually inappropriate, and it's terrible. So you're right. Got to advocate for yourself and not be afraid to speak up. And I am pissed at myself that I let them give me Benadryl and keep me in a wheelchair in a waiting room. So I could not lay back on a gurney because I had no control over my entire body on that drug. I mean, when I tell you, you lose the ability, my arms flop down, my head flopped down. And as I was talking to you earlier, somebody could have just walked over to me and took my little purse, like a little wristlet with all my ID, my everything, and they could have just taken it. They could have taken advantage of me in this corner that I was wheeled into, and I was helpless. I couldn't have done anything to save myself. I couldn't speak. I knew what was going on. I was cognitively all there, but that Benadryl knocked me on my butt, and I refuse to take that unless they're going to put me in a bed moving forward. I'll leave the hospital and go to another one if that's the case. I'm just angry that I didn't do that then, but lesson learned will never happen again. So let's get to Therapeutic Thursday. Let's have some therapy about all this. All right? Because medical trauma is the topic. And we know that a lot of people in the community may still be experiencing fear or scanxiety, which was what I was going to ask Bo. Like, do you have follow-up anxiety when you see your physicians? But overwhelming sensations that can trigger certain, that are triggered by certain medical procedures or tests. And let me tell you, being in the ER and having an IV is where it begins for me. And I tell everybody, I can have chest tubes ripped out of my chest, but I cannot have an IV put in. Just let me talk. I'm going to talk a lot. Just ignore me. Just tell me that you like the vein. If you tell me you like the vein, I'd take a deep breath. So she said, I like the vein. And she did a great job, but that's the first. CT or any kind of dye, I just need somebody to say, okay, Karen, we're going to give it to you in 3, 2, 1. And then I can start breathing and grounding and counting and tapping. And I know what to expect and try to minimize the impacts of feeling discomfort. That's what blows me up. But I will tell you, coming out of this experience led me to fully realize and be able to accept that I need a tune-up in my EMDR. I am becoming more and more easily triggered from a PTS standpoint by medical stuff. So it's time for a tune-up. So I will let you all know how that works because I am going later this week. So I'm excited. All right. Medical trauma is a term that basically refers to the psychological emotional impact of experiencing or witnessing a serious injury or illness. Okay, so it doesn't have to be that it happened to you. Our caregivers could have a degree of medical trauma because of what happened to us. Okay, it just happens. Uh, Obviously, this also includes death, but medical trauma can affect anyone, regardless of your age, your gender, your background, and common signs of medical trauma could be you start having flashbacks, you start having nightmares, maybe you're having intrusive memories of the actual event. That's one. Um, some other signs of medical trauma would be avoidance of reminders of the event. So you're just disassociating. You don't want to be reminded of whatever has happened, whether that's people, places, or the activities surrounding the event. If you start feeling emotionally numb or detached, like I just said, detachment, or disconnected from other people. If you're feeling anxious, fearful, angry, guilty, or ashamed, those are all traditionally the emotions you might feel. If you start having trouble sleeping or concentrating or remembering things, it's typically on a short term memory basis. And if you're having changes in your appetite or your food or your energy level, these could all be signs of a medical trauma. And if you or someone you know is suffering from medical trauma, it's really important to seek professional help because you really don't need to suffer. Kind of like if you are having problems with your hand or your foot or your hip. You don't need to suffer. You need to see a doctor. It works the same way for anything that is emotional or mentally based. Okay. And there's very effective treatments that are out there, such as cognitive behavior therapy or CBT. That's typically more of your talk therapy that you think of when you think of going to therapy. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which we talk about a lot, or EMDR. That's what I'm going back in to ultimately have as my tune up. I'm going to start off with the talky stuff. We're going to talk so that Amy Wagner, the therapist who's been on here before, so she has an idea on what's bringing me there and what's been happening. And then we'll move into that EMDR. And lastly, you might need some medication. And all of these are perfectly fine and typically covered by insurance. Um, Having any of these treatments can actually help you cope with the impact and the distressing emotions that really come with medical trauma. It can help to reduce the thoughts and the negative impact of the trauma on your life. So you don't have to suffer alone. And suffering is no good. It only takes me a couple times of these bad experiences before I have now said to myself, I am not going to suffer any longer. I know that there's treatment out there that's going to make this a little bit easier because I've got a lifetime to go through this. So, my wish for any of you that might be suffering through some of this is that you will consider talking to your physician and being referred to the best therapist that can help you. Okay, that's our Therapeutic Thursday.
I think that's a great idea, and I think that mental health is definitely something that's being not taken as seriously as it
No,
should. Not by any respect. So
no.
Bo says, when I had my aortic dissection in 2012, they sent me to a pain management doctor, and he wouldn't touch me. He said I was too high risk, and so just keep doing what you're doing.
Hmm.
I was like, oof, one and done with that doctor. He's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
anxiety you get is when you get your doctor bills and the insurance didn't pay. That gives you anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Look, I get anxiety if I see anything with three letters, MVA, IRS. I don't like any mail that has those three letters on it. I mean, because it's either a ticket or it's you owe money to your taxes. It stresses me out. But you're right, Bo. The medical stuff, that's so unnerving. I keep a file folder. It's actually not too far away with every explanation of benefit from now I've got it from Medicare, my secondary, and I get it from my prescription plan because so many times I get bills from these doctors and I look and they didn't submit it to the second medical. So now I got to make the phone call for them to say, oh, yeah, okay, sorry, we didn't do it. 9.9 times out of 10, the money they're asking for me, I don't even owe. It's because they missed a step on their end. It's not that they're incompetent. It's that they're either overworked, they don't have enough staff, or their staff's not properly trained. But I think how many people in the world just keep paying the bill the minute they get the bill? And you really, unfortunately, you need to take the time to talk to them and do a little investigating yourself because you think you'd be surprised how many times you don't actually owe the money. That's what I've come to realize.
I think my favorite
Just
thing on the on social media is when it's like the first response that you should issue back to the people that are asking for these things is ask for an itemized bill.
Oh, yes.
And immediately,
Yes.
somehow, it drops 30%. Like, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
what are we doing here? Is
Oh, yeah.
is it just scam first anyway? Is that the process?
You know, I don't know. It was one time I was seeing a physical therapy department and I just got a bill that was stupid, stupid high. I knew what my copay was and I could not believe that I was getting a bill this high. And I said, I need an itemized bill. You just can't lay this on me. And I'm just supposed to say, sure, let me write a check. And the itemized bill was ridiculous. It would be like, here's your charge for the visit. Here's what insurance paid. Here's what you paid, but there was a balance, which made no sense because there would have been no balance. And then they carried that over, and I'm reading this, and none of it made sense. It was bizarre charges, like it never ended in. It was like $7.92, 16.23. I'm like, what? I don't pay that in a copay. I pay $10. I pay $15. I don't pay $6.92. So how did you get that as my payment? And they said, well, we know that you gave more, but it's how it applies in the system. I said, no, I want an itemized statement that truly reflects what I actually paid. Don't lie. Don't do it for your system. If you can't show me the 15 I know I paid last week, I'm not paying this bill until you can show me that. That was it. I don't know if I ever paid the bill. Now that you just made me realize it was like 2 years ago,
Oh, whoops.
I'm not. You're gonna show me a bill that says I paid $6.92. I don't even carry pennies on me in my pocket. So how'd I do that? It's crazy. It's annoying. I like 5 humans and my dog. That's what I say. All right, let's go on to Saturday. Saturday Survivor Series featured our own Jenny Safer. So Jenny is, oh, you know what? Let me refresh this because I took off those accidental, um, what are they? Exclamation points. Jenny's not just some Jane Doe or the Terminator, although you know what? Sometimes I think she's kind of like like Robo Jenny because she just keeps getting it done. She's our own director of administrative services. She's on our board. She is the one who worked tirelessly, like the main soul that worked tirelessly on our patient guide. But more importantly, she's a type A dissection survivor, and her story is extremely detailed, compelling through and through. It's really an unbelievable story. So you should check it out by clicking on the link. But we want to hear from you. We want you to be the shining star in somebody's life. Share your story. Look, it's emotional. I get it. I've done it quite a few times, but your story is going to help others because A, it's going to validate their own experience, and B, it's going to cause them to come up with some kind of question to take to their own physician to say, hey, I heard this. What about me? Or how did this apply to me? Or what did I have? Sharing your story, I guarantee you will come out of it feeling a little bit better than when you went in. And if you cry, oh, that's even better. It's like ratings. It's even better for us because it's showing the human side of how you feel about your story. And you can do costume changes. You can bring your dog in. I don't care. You can eat food while you're telling your story, however you want, whatever setup you want. Go live. That's going to be the most effective way because you get a chance to take questions from the community. If you are too nervous to go live, and I can appreciate that, then do a pre-recorded story. Being able to hear your voice, see your face, your authentic voice means a lot to other people. Or do a written blog because ultimately your written blog will be put to a voice. It'll be computerized. I don't think it'll be a British accent, although that's what I want mine to be, Joshua. I want my story. If I, well, I didn't do one in written, but if I did one in written, I would want mine with a British Queen of England accent. It's probably not going to be like that, but it will be put to a computerized voice. But if you want to just do it in written format, that's okay too. We just need you to click the form, fill it out, and Molly will actually be in touch with you for anything that's written, and Joshua will reach out to you for anything that's recorded or live. We really want to know about diagnosis of a dissection, of an aneurysm, of a bicuspid valve. It doesn't matter. We want to know treatment plan. We want to know everything. Were you misdiagnosed? Because that's definitely going to be shared on Think Aorta US because that's their whole pre-active existence is to get people to understand that this can't happen anymore. We need to think about aorta. So just send us your story. Just send us that you're interested and we'll take it from there and we'll reach out to you. That's our Survivor Series.
Yeah, we
Look,
want these stories. 100%.
we need them. And
Yeah.
you know what else we want? We want to help Think Aorta garner some of you to be part of their patient success story. You know what that is? That is Think Aorta, Think Family. We need to know, they need to know, and we need to help them find out about you that you had that awkward conversation with your family members, your first degree. So if it happened to you, a dissection specifically, I want to know, how did you talk to your children if you have any? How did you talk to your siblings if you have any? How did you talk to your parents? Because it came from one of your parents, or possibly not if you were patient X and you developed a connective tissue disorder and it just happened, or you were the first start, but it typically is hereditary. So, how did you have these conversations? What did the physician say? What did they do? Did you do genetic testing? Did you just have diagnostic testing? Are people at least being monitored? 5-year follow-up, 10-year follow-up, 6-month follow-up. We just want to know that that work is being done because dissections are so rare, but aortic disease is much more common than anybody realizes. So we're just trying to help Think Aorta in their activities of being a very pre-active organization, and they would love to feature you as one of their success stories. So if you're interested, head over to their website. There's information at thinkaorta.us where you can sign up there today.
Nailed it.
Plug, plug, plug. All right. Sunday, collaboration time. I always look for my bracelet. I always wait till the last minute. Lawrence Hope. Look, it's more than just fancy jewelry for, the fancy people out there. There's a lot of sporty, waterproof, like awesome materials. Let's talk about this. Everybody should consider wearing a piece of identification that a medical personnel could easily find and learn about your condition. Okay. You only get like 5 to 7 lines, but it's important. All right. If a first responder finds you and you're unable to speak and you don't have our seatbelt cover in your car, but let's say you're someplace else and they need to know what's going on with you, they can flip over your bracelet, or it may even look like it's a watch. Actually, they make them now. They're so cool. And they're going to be able to get some immediate information like, do you have any really important allergies, like an IV contrast allergy? Are you on blood thinner? Do you have an aneurysm? Like, these are key critical bits of information. Who's your ICE or emergency contact person, right? This is this is the information you need to put on there. And the great thing, who are you laughing about?
Ice in
ICE.
case of emergency.
Say, in case of emergency, important information person. I know. I said that. Didn't you see my wheels spinning when I was like, that's not what ICE stands for?
Yeah,
In case of
I saw that.
emergency.
I saw that happen real time.
It did happen. In case of emergency, important person that you need to reach out to. That's what ICE stands for in my world. Look, here's the deal. Lawrence Hope has a shopping department. It's all free. Everything they do for you to help you get to the point of purchase is free. And then at the point of purchase, they have 1,000,001 coupons all the time anyway. And then at the point of purchase, if you use the link that's in here or on our resources page, Aortic Hope does get a small thank you, a small kickback from the purchase of your item. Their shopping department will actually help you pick out the best item for you. Do you have an allergy? Well, everything they use is hypoallergenic. Do you want something that's sporty, that's waterproof, that's fancy, that's sparkly, that's silver, that's gold tone, that's rose gold, that's rubberized? To talk to them. They will show you everything and give you all the options, and they'll help walk you through what to put on the back of your tag, because they have now, over the last few years that we've been working with them, they become very well versed in working with first responders to determine the best acronyms to use for people that have aortic disease on the back of their tag. So how would you abbreviate Plavix? They can now tell you the best way to do it because they've talked with first responders. They know the accepted abbreviations for these terms. So I really highly recommend you talk to somebody on their customer service line. They'll put you in the shopping department and they'll work with you for the information that's important. It's a great organization. They were started because the founder's child, I believe, had a disease and they needed to figure out a way to let first responders know. And the medical bracelets that existed are just very, very, very generic and they're not very attractive. That's just my point of view. And if you're going to have to wear something all the time, you kind of want it to mesh with your style. A lot of women want it to look pretty because a lot of people are very self-conscious and we shouldn't be. So if you're going to be self-conscious, wear something that makes you feel awesome about what you're wearing. Get the ID plates that are interchangeable so you can buy a gazillion different bracelets to go with it and change depending on how you feel for the day. So check them out. They're wonderful to work with. I promise you won't be disappointed. All right, Joshua, let's talk about the events that are coming up, because there's a lot of still great events coming up for October, and I will begin working on November very shortly because there'll be fun events coming up in November too. But we have on the 25th, which is like, okay, Wednesday, right? Oh my God, I cannot believe we're almost going to be at the last week of October. On Wednesday, the 25th, we have our virtual support group meeting. It is the second one of the month. It is at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You sign up once and you will be notified of each of our support group meetings. If you are not a caregiver, you're only going to know about the support group meetings for general public and hangouts. If you're a caregiver, you're going to know about the caregiver support group meetings. And I believe you're notified about the general ones too, correct?
Yes,
Right?
yes. We want the caregivers to remind their patients if they're
Yeah.
going to have a meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in the general ones, you're not told about the caregiver because you got to be a caregiver to go into the caregiver. That's the one that is much more specific. And, we kind of monitor that one a little bit more. But in October's evening support group meeting, we do have Dr. Stacy Fisher. She's going to join us. She is a cardiogeneticist, a cardiologist from Johns Hopkins Hospital. She will be with us in the beginning of this support group meeting, just kind of talking to you about anything Aorta 101. If you've got questions, it's a great time to ask her. The information she's going to give you is something that'll let you take it back to your physician. Because you're not her patient. She can't change your course of action. She's not going to make a prescription for you. She's not going to tell you don't take your medication. But what she may tell you is how to have that conversation with your doctor. What are some of the things that you can mention that's going on in your case? She's going to talk about the upcoming virtual reality, like space age fun video game travels that we're going to take through my aorta soon. And we're going to get to look with the VR goggles, and how Hopkins is really advancing medicine in being able to come up with personalized aortas for big surgeries and get a feel for what's really going in, so there's no surprises when they have these surgeries. So she's joining us. And then we have an Ask a Doctor with Dr. Siddharth Prakash. He's also a cardiologist out of University of Texas, Houston, does a lot of research. Number one research study right now is wrapping up the exercise study that the whole community has been talking about. We're going to talk about exercise after an aortic dissection, and we're going to just talk about anything general aortic related. If you would like to ask a question anonymously, there's a link in this link that will allow you to put your question into a form and we will ask it for you. Thursday, the 26th, 2 p.m. We always have our hangout. Our hangouts are fun. They are not your typical, they're not a support group meeting. Although in order to get invited into this, you have to fill out the support group meeting registration, and then you'll be notified when the fun hangouts happen, which are every Thursday. So if you're looking just to meet other people that are survivors or caregivers and you just want to relax, like chill, crazy, fun, laughing environment, then the hangout is for you. And you could at least check it out and see if it really is for you. We wrap up the month on the 30th with another week in review. And the 30th at 7 p.m., we have our Halloween bingo. Show up in costume and you're automatically entered to win a prize. Bingo is a sign up every time you're going to play. So if you played with us before, you need to register again in order to receive your one bingo card that you will use throughout all 10 games. So you're going to use it over and over again, so don't permanently mark it up. And there's 10 games. It's free. We have prizes ranging from 10 all the way up to $50. And everyone has a chance to win a great prize. And that's that event. That's our week. That's what we got. So who'd we have here today? Diane, Molly, and Bo, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So randomly, we're going to send a book out to Bo. Yay. Shh. That's cheering. Did you know that's what that sound was? Shh. That's the crowd going wild. Bo gets a hard copy of Aortic Dissection, The Patient Guide.
Right on. I hope he enjoys it.
I hope he
One
does
thing
too.
about the hangouts, they'll go for 4 hours. Like we talk about everything. It's so much fun.
I see.
It's
I see when you guys
jokes.
leave.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my God.
it's jokes. Sometimes people are cooking. This past week, we watched uh oh, why am I drawing? I'm drawing a blank on his name. But he made pizza from scratch.
Was it Rob?
No. Rob is in the Himalayas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
he just finished Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dean.
Dean.
Dean like he
Oh.
went out to his garden. We're on his cell phone. He walks out to his garden. He picks the tomatoes. He processes the tomatoes. He like kneaded the
Oh.
dough, and it took hours, right? And and at first he was making this pizza for his son because he was going to go take his daughter out for Thai food. And then
Mm-hmm.
like right before he was ready to just make the pizza portion of it, like
Yeah.
after all the ingredients were processed and ready to go, his son was like, "Hey, pops, I'm gonna go to Taco Bell."
All right. You know what? Diane needs to go and be in Hangouts and be making her glittery jackets.
Oh
And
yeah,
I may go live in Hangouts and just listen to y'all and paint some pictures.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just knitted a blanket in 2 hours. So maybe that I got 2 orders since then. So maybe what I'll do is just when you guys hang out on Thursday, because it's going to be 80 degrees, which sounds wonderful, except when you're covered in a rash, it's not wonderful. It's hot and itchy. And I'll sit upstairs and just knit a blanket while you're all chatting.
Do you have like a rocking chair that you rock back and forth in when you're
No,
knitting?
I'm only 54. No,
But
I
I don't know. I
actually,
always felt like rocking while you're knitting was a thing. Is that not a thing? Is that just like the social programming that's been in my head?
I think it's like maybe what grandmothers do. I don't
I don't know.
movies
I've never
or
not sat
Schoolhouse
in a
Rock. Are you
rock.
talking about the
Well, I'm
lady in
just
Schoolhouse Rock who would like rock like this and knit? No, I sat on the bed actually. I like to watch The Challenge, which is now on mainstream TV as well as MTV. It's common. It used to be a combination of Real World and Road Rules people. Okay, long story. I'm a reality TV junkie, and I watched it. And what happened is it cut off on my DVR at the end before it announced who the winner was. So I had to go into on demand, but you can't fast forward. So it was another hour. And by the time they announced the winner, I had just tied the last knot. And so I sat back all comfy and saw the winner and looked, and I had a blanket. I was very excited. Yeah.
so what you're telling me
I
is
was,
you don't have a rocking chair.
no, I sat in my bed
No,
and
I'm
I
just
knitted it
saying
with
like
just my fingers. Oh no,
sure.
I don't have a rocking chair anymore. No,
You,
we have a
wait, so
recliner.
is that knitting if you're using your fingers?
Yeah, it's called finger knitting
All
or
right,
hand knitting.
I'll believe it.
And then last year, 2 years ago, I did arm
Stop
knitting. So
scratching.
all of No, oh no, I'm telling you, I did arm knitting. So the links go on your arms. You kind of use them as crochet hooks.
Oh wow.
And I did it and I made 3 or 4 of them for people. And I said never again because you can't stop once you start and it just gets weighted and hangs from your arms as you're knitting until you cast off everything. This was easier. This just went across the bed and I just went to the left and knit to the right, knit to the left and knit to the right as 6 skeins of chunky yarn. When they
All
were
right.
done, I was done. I've been studying these videos on TikTok and I said to myself, I am ready. I am ready to try. And I did a really good job. So, yeah.
Very cool. All right.
All right. That is our weekend review. Thank you, Bo. We're going to get a link out to you to complete so we can mail you your book. Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Diane, for joining us. And yeah, we'll be back next Monday, same day, same time, Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Please click like, please click subscribe. And if you click the bell, you'll know about every time that we go live. And share and leave us a comment because I'm sure somebody out there will derive something from what we've talked about today. A lot about rashes and Benadryl. So yeah, good stuff, fun stuff. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.